Now we will study Leontief input-output model. Wesley Leontief was an economist who was one of the first people who did computational analysis of economics. His work involved one of the first uses of computer to produce this analysis done in 1949 at Harvard. Now, for his work, he has also won a Nobel Prize in 1973. Leontief based his approach on the idea that economy is basically divided into different sectors. Okay, and what happens is that each sector produces a product. In order to produce its product, each sector requires input which comes from all these sectors, that is, from its own self and from the other sectors. Suppose we have a sector, sector 1. We have another sector, sector 2, another sector, sector 3, and another sector, sector 4. In order for sector 1 to produce the product or an output, what it will do is that it will demand the input from sector 2, from sector 3, and from sector 4, as well as it will demand its own product as well. So therefore, the inputs from its own product. So therefore, in order to produce any output by any sector, that is the total amount produced, it is equal to internal demand plus external demand. IE stands for internal demand and ED stands for external demand. Okay, so therefore the total amount produced is equal to internal demand plus external demand. Now we will study this particular concept through a detailed example. Now let us suppose that there are 3 sectors. Sector 1, sector 2, sector 3. Okay, and each sector is producing its product. In order for each sector to function, it needs some of its own product, that is internal demand, and as well as some of the other sectors' product. Suppose we have the following data. Okay, now we have 3 sectors. One is, okay, let me write it over here. The first one is sector 1. Okay, we have 3 sectors. First one is sector 1. Second one is sector 2, and the third one is sector 3. Okay. Now for sector 1 to produce 1 unit of output, okay, what it requires is that it takes 0.10 units of product 1. Okay, it takes 0.10 units of product 1, 0.20 units of product 2, 0.20 units of product 2, okay, and 0.25 units of product 3. Units of product 3. We will explain these mathematical notations after writing the whole data for the product that is being produced by sector 1, sector 2, and sector 3. And one thing common over here is that we will have to study the production of 1 unit of product produced by sector 1. Again, sector 2 also produces 1 unit of product. Okay, and then in order to produce 1 unit of product by the sector 2, what it requires is that it requires 0.15 units of product 1. Okay, 0.15 units of product 1, and it requires 0 units of product 2, and it requires 0.40 units of product 3. 0.40 units of product 3. Now for sector 3 to produce again 1 unit of product 3, okay, 1 unit of product 3, what happens is that it requires 0.12 units of product 1. Therefore, what we will have over here is 0.12 units of product 1, and 0.30 units of product 2, 0.30 units of product 2, and 0.20 units of product 3. Now this is the data we have for producing 1 unit of output for, or 1 unit of product for each sector, how much of the other sectors and the same sector's product is required to produce 1 unit of product. If the goal is for the sectors to produce P1 units of product 1, P2 units of product 2, and P3 units of product 3, then what is the total internal requirement? Okay, that is what is the total internal demand if the goal of the firms is to produce, or sectors is to produce P1 units of product 1. Okay, we will move step by step. First we go to, or we move at P1. In order to produce P1 units of product 1, what we have over here is, okay, let me write it over here so that everything is clear to you. Now, to produce P1 units of product 1, okay, it requires 0.10 units of, it requires 0.10 units of, or you can also say it requires 0.10 P1 units of product 1, okay, of product 1. To produce P2, okay, now to produce P2 units of product 2, then what happens is that, now what we are concerned with here, you should be careful about it. To produce P2 units of product 2, it requires 0.15, okay, 0.15 P2 units of product 1, okay. It requires 0.15 P2 units of product 1. Then in order to produce P3 units of product 3, okay, you should be careful over here with your wordings. That is what over here, what is with us over here, if in order to produce P3 units of product 3, it requires 0.12, okay, now we are talking about this particular value, it requires 0.12 P3, it requires 0.12 P3 units of product 1 again. Clear? So what does it mean? That it means that in total what happens over here is that 0.10 P1, okay, 0.10 P1 plus 0.15 P2 0.15 P2 plus 0.12 P3 0.12 P3, okay, units of product 1. These are all the units of product 1. Let me write it over here so that it is very much clear to you. Product 1 units. Okay, these are the units of product 1. Okay. So therefore 0.10 P1 plus 0.15 P2 plus 0.12 P3 are required to produce the P1 units of product 1. They are required to produce P1 units of product 1. Similarly, what we will have is that we will need 0.10 P1 plus 0.15 P2 plus 0.12 P3 units of product 1. And in the same way, similarly, we will have 0.20 P1. Okay, now we have to write all these equations. 0.20 P1 plus 0 P2 plus 0.30 P3 units, 0.30 P3 units of product 2. Okay, over here what we have, these are the product, or we can simply write it as product 2 units. Okay. Now let me just come back over here. 0.20 plus 0 0.20 P1 plus 0 P2 because of this sector, okay, plus 0.30 P3 because of this sector for product 2 units. Now similarly we will have again 0. Okay, 0.25 P1 plus 0.40 P2, okay, 0.40 P2 plus, and in the end we will have 0.20 P3, 0.20 P3. Okay, these are the product 3 units. Okay, since we must produce these quantities to satisfy internal demand, we therefore have P1, P2 and P3. That is, this will become now P1 is equal to 0.10 P1 plus 0.15 P2 plus 0.12 P3, and P2 is equal to 0.20 P1 plus 0 P2 plus 0.30 P3, and P3 is equal to 0.25 P1 plus 0.40 P2 plus 0.20 P3. Therefore, we can also write this in the matrix form. That is, what happens is, if we change this into the matrix form, we have P1, P2 and P3. Okay, this whole is equal to, now P1, 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 we have 3 different values for P1. We will write P1 over here outside the matrix. The values of P1 in the matrix, this is 3 rows 1 column matrix, 0.1, then we have 0.2, and in the end last value is 0.25. okay, plus we have P2. okay, now write down all the values of P2. It is, the first one is 0. Okay, the first one is 0.15, then we have 0, and then we have 0.40. okay, and then we have plus P3. okay, the values of P3 are 0.12, 0.3 and 0.20. 0.12, 0.3 and 0.2. Now what we are doing over here is that an important point to consider is P1, P2, P3 is equal to P1. Write all the values of P1 in the same matrix, 3 cross 1 matrix, that is 3 rows 1 column, plus, look, you can see that there's we are adding the values of P2. So therefore plus P2, 0.150 and 0.4 will come over here, then plus P3 is the values of P3 will be written with it, that is 0.12, 0.3 and 0.2, which can be written again in another matrix form, that is, or we can say that we can rearrange this matrix again. We get P1, P2 and P3. okay, P1, P2 and P3 is equal to Now the values of P1 are 0.1, 0.2, 0.25. Write them as it is. 0.1, 0.2. Okay. Let me write this value. Okay, this is 0.2 and this one is now 0.25. Okay. Then we have 0.150 and 0.4, 0.150 and 0.4, and in the last we will have 0.12, 0.3 and 0.2. Okay, now close this matrix. These are all the coefficient values, so therefore this is the coefficient matrix, and we will write the P1 variable matrix, P1, P2 and P3 over here. Coefficients multiplied by its variables. Okay. Now what happens over here is that this P1, P2, P3. The first matrix is showing the total product that is produced. Total production. Okay. What is this particular matrix showing? This is showing the internal demand. This is the internal demand matrix. Okay, let me just try it again. This is the internal demand. Okay. Now, where is the external demand? We know that when we are studying about the total amount of output or product that is produced, it involves both the internal demand as well as the external demand. Now we have all the values of internal demand over here with us. Okay, it has been deleted by mistake. Yeah, we have all the values of internal demand in this given matrix. For external demand, what we will do is that we will add D1, D2 and D3 units for the three products respectively. And then what happens is that what we will do is, in order to find out the or write out okay. Now this is the total amount that is produced is represented by this matrix P1, P2 and P3, and this whole matrix is the matrix of internal demand. In order to introduce the external demand, what we will do is that the external demand of D1, D2 and D3 units for the three products respectively should be there. Okay, therefore then the total demand will be equal to internal demand plus the external demand. Now what is external demand? External demand is D1, D2 and D3. Okay. So therefore this is the main concept of leontief input-output model. What is the main concept of leontief input-output model? It states that for the three sectors to produce P1, P2, P3 products, these sectors will have internal demand, which is represented or shown by this very first matrix, and then it will also have the external demand, that is represented by D1, D2 and D3. So therefore this whole is the internal demand and this whole is the external demand. Therefore the leontief input-output model is given by, now mathematically we will write it in the simplest way, that is P bar is equal to, P bar represents the output that is, or the product that is produced by the three sectors, is equal to, okay, M P bar plus D bar. When you incorporate all the values into a single term, we have termed it as P bar and P bar, and again this P bar as well, okay? So P bar is equal to M P bar plus D bar. Why is this also P and this also P? Because this P1 represents the product produced by sector 1, P2 by product produced by sector 2, and P3 by product produced by sector 3. And this P bar is showing the internal demand for these three products that are produced by three different sectors. And this D represents the demand from the external demand. And therefore the matrix, this M shows the consumption matrix, okay? What is this M showing? It is showing the consumption matrix. Let me write it over here. So this M is the consumption matrix. Okay. Consumption matrix is made up of consumption vectors. Okay. There are different number of rows and columns. Over here we have 3 rows and 3 columns. So therefore the value of I is equal to 3 and the value of j is also equal to 3 over here. Mathematically you will see such notations I and j. The jth column is the jth consumption vector and contains the necessary input required from each of the sectors for sector j to produce. What is this P bar showing? P bar is the production vector. Okay, P bar is the production vector, and okay, let me write it over here. So this P bar is the production vector, M is the consumption vector, and what is this D bar? D bar is the external demand vector. ED. That is the external demand vector. These matrices are showing different terms that have to be studied in the leontief input-output model. Now there is an important assumption over here, and what is that important assumption over here is that this D bar is not equal to 0. This D bar, okay, let me correct it first. Now this D bar is not equal to 0 when we are concerned with an open economy. Okay, when we are studying the example of an open economy, then D bar should not be equal to 0. That is, there should be external demand. But if the value of D bar is equal to 0, then we are concerned with the closed economy. So therefore, for closed economy, there is no external demand, whereas for an open economy, there should be an external demand. This is the difference between open economy and closed economy in our example over here. So therefore, this is all about our leontief input-output model, which we have studied today. It is a very important model from economics perspectives and your course perspectives as well. If there is any question, you can ask me anytime. Thank you. Thank you very much.